For 23 years, Daniel Reyes drove the silent desert roads around Las Vegas, not the bright strip, but the empty highways where headlights cut through darkness. After cancer took his wife, he chose the night because it asked nothing of him. No smiles, no small talk, just silence that he once believed in God as naturally as breathing. But whispered prayers on hospital floors went unanswered, and faith slowly faded into exhaustion. T2:47 a.m. That night felt like every other. Until something happened on that lonely road. Something that would make him question whether he had abandoned God or if God had never left him at all. Before we continue, share in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Let's see how far the miracles of the Virgin Mary have reached. And if you haven't yet joined our family, subscribe now, because here, each day, we witness the tender love and mighty power of the Mother of God. That night the highway ran straight and dark beyond the city lights. No traffic, no exits for miles. Daniel considered turning back early, but his foot stayed on the gas. Something held him forward. Then he saw her. She stood alone on the shoulder, not moving, not signaling. Most hitchhikers waved or paced. She simply waited, calm, as though she trusted someone would stop. Instinct made him slow. Picking up strangers on empty roads broke every rule he followed. Yet he pulled over anyway. She walked to the passenger side without hurry. Simple clothes, a long coat, plain shoes, hair covered lightly. Her face carried no age in the usual way. Not young, not old, just gentle, peaceful, timeless. "Thank you," she said as she settled into the seat. Her voice came soft and warm. It did not bounce around the car. It rested there. "Where to?" Daniel asked. "Anywhere is fine," she answered with a small smile. "Just drive." The words should have unsettled him. They did not. He eased back onto the highway. Silence returned, but it felt lighter than before. His grip on the wheel loosened. His shoulders dropped. Breathing came slower, deeper. He had not noticed how tight his body stayed until it relaxed. Minutes passed without words. Then she spoke again. "You carry a great sorrow." Daniel kept his eyes on the road. "Everyone does." She shook her head gently. "Not everyone lets it shape their entire life." The statement landed quietly. Something in his chest tightened. "I used to believe," he said before he could stop himself. "I used to think faith meant protection, but it didn't work that way for me." She turned toward him slightly. Her gaze stayed kind, never sharp. "Faith was never meant to shield you from pain," she said. "It was meant to walk with you through it." Daniel swallowed. Hospital memories rose fast. Beeping monitors, thin blankets, his wife's hand growing cooler in his. He gripped the wheel harder. "I prayed," he said quietly. "Harder than I ever had. And nothing changed." She nodded as though she had heard those words many times. "Sometimes the answer is not the one we ask for," she said, "but the one that keeps us from losing ourselves." The road stretched on under the headlights. For the first time in years, Daniel felt something move inside him. Not full certainty, not a sudden miracle, just a thin, fragile thread of hope. He glanced at her once. She sat with hands folded in her lap, looking straight ahead. Her presence filled the car without effort. "My wife loved mornings," he found himself saying. "She'd wake early just to watch the light come through the window. After she got sick, I kept praying for more mornings. They never came." The woman listened without interrupting. "She used to say mornings were God's way of reminding us to begin again," he continued. "When she was gone, mornings felt like a lie." The highway curved gently. Headlights carved a narrow path through the dark. "I stopped going to church," Daniel said. "Couldn't stand the hymns. Everyone singing about hope like it was promised." She turned her head slightly. Dashboard lights caught her eyes. "Hope was never meant to be loud," she said. "It is often born in silence." Daniel felt his throat close. His hands trembled on the wheel. "I thought if I believed enough," he admitted, "God would step in." "And when he didn't," she said gently, "you felt abandoned." He nodded once. She rested her hand near the center console, not touching him, but close enough to feel. God does not abandon, she said. He allows us to walk paths we do not understand, because love cannot exist without freedom. Daniel stared at the road. The words did not sound like something read from a book. They sounded lived. The highway carried them deeper into the desert. City lights had vanished long ago. Only stars and the narrow beam of the headlights remained. Daniel drove without thinking about distance or time. The road felt different tonight, less like a route he had traveled 1,000 times and more like a path that had chosen him. The woman sat quietly beside him. Her hands stayed folded. She did not fidget or look around. She simply was there, and the space inside the cab felt fuller for it. Daniel broke the silence first. She used to thank God, he said, even at the end, even when the pain kept her awake. She'd whisper thanks like it was the most natural thing. I didn't get it. I thought she was pretending, or in denial. The woman listened. She did not rush to fill the gap. What do you think now? She asked gently. Daniel kept his eyes forward. The asphalt rolled under the tires in steady rhythm. I think she saw something I couldn't, he said. Something past the machines and the morphine. Something that let her rest even when her body wouldn't. The woman nodded slowly. Love teaches the eyes to see farther, she said. Daniel felt the words settle. They did not argue with his grief. They simply stood beside it. I feel guilty, he admitted, for still being here, for waking up every day when she doesn't, for breathing when she can't. She turned toward him just enough for the dashboard glow to catch her face. Life is not a betrayal of the dead, she said. It is the continuation of their love. Daniel's throat tightened. He had never heard it said that way. For years he had treated each sunrise like evidence of disloyalty. Now the idea landed differently. Not as forgiveness exactly, as permission. I'm tired, he said quietly. Tired of carrying it alone. She met his eyes. You were never meant to. The words hung between them. Simple. Heavy. True. Daniel glanced at the rearview mirror. Empty road behind. Empty road ahead. No other cars. No lights. Just the two of them in the night. You don't ask many questions, he said, trying to shift the weight of the moment. She smiled gently. Some questions are asked with the heart long before the lips move. He let out a slow breath. Her answers always seemed to arrive already complete. I used to ask God everything, he said. Why her? Why us? Why now? I asked until I ran out of words. Then I stopped. Ah, she said calmly. Because you were afraid of the answers. Daniel tightened his grip on the wheel. A flicker of irritation rose. So it's my fault? I didn't believe hard enough. She shook her head at once. No, love does not speak in blame. The irritation faded. Shame took its place. He had spent years building walls around the pain, guarding it like the last piece of her he still owned. I don't know who I am without the grief, he said. It's been with me longer than anything else. She nodded. Grief is not the opposite of faith, she said. It is proof that love once lived there. The sentence struck deep. Daniel felt it like a key turning in a lock he had forgotten existed. They left the main highway. The road narrowed. Pavement gave way to smoother blacktop, flanked by open desert. Daniel did not remember making the turn. His hands moved on their own. The woman did not comment on the change in direction. She never questioned anything. Daniel looked at her again. You still speak to her, she said softly. He frowned. What do you mean? In your heart, she answered. In the way you remember her. In the way you protect yourself from loving again. The observation cut cleanly. He had built every defense to keep love from reaching him a second time. I don't think God wants anything from me anymore, he said. She smiled. Not sadly, tenderly. He never wanted anything from you, she replied. Only to walk with you. Daniel felt his chest lighten. Not all at once. Gradually, like frost melting under slow sun. The desert opened wider on both sides. Stars burned brighter away from the city glare. The wind brushed the car in soft gusts. Daniel realized he had not checked the time in a long while. It did not matter. The destination had stopped feeling urgent. I've picked up thousands of passengers, he said. Drunks, tourists, People chasing luck. None of them ever made me feel like this. Like what? She asked. Like I'm being seen, he answered. Not just looked at. Seen. She nodded slowly. The soul longs for recognition more than comfort. Daniel let the words rest. For years he had kept every conversation shallow. Armor. With her, the armor had fallen away without him noticing. I've been angry for so long, he confessed. Not loud. Quiet. The kind that hardens. And what are you afraid will happen? She asked gently. If you let it soften? He hesitated. That I'll feel everything again, he said. The loss. The emptiness. The love. She turned fully toward him. Her voice stayed steady. Tender. To feel again is not weakness, she said. It is courage. Daniel's eyes stung. He stared ahead. The road blurred for a moment. The road kept narrowing until pavement turned to smooth blacktop edged by nothing but scrub and stone. Daniel drove without checking the mirrors anymore. The desert felt vast and close at the same time. Stars stood sharp overhead. The engine's low hum blended with the wind brushing the car. Daniel felt the conversation shift inside him. Questions he had buried for years rose again, quieter now, less angry. Why would God allow it, he asked. If he's love, why let someone suffer like that? Why let her hurt so much? The woman closed her eyes for a moment, as though remembering something long carried. Because suffering, when united with love, can become a language, she said. A language that reaches hearts no comfort ever could. Daniel stared at the road. The words did not erase the hospital nights. They gave them a different shape. I begged him to heal her, he said. I would have traded places. I would have given anything. Love always makes that offer, she answered. But healing does not always mean keeping someone here. Daniel wiped his face with the back of his hand. Tears came without warning. He did not hide them. I was afraid, he said softly. Afraid that if I believed again, I'd lose her all over. Lose the last piece I still had. She listened closely. Love always risks loss, she said. But refusing to love risks losing yourself. The sentence landed gently. Daniel felt the weight of years spent shielding his heart. The shield had grown heavy. Do you believe God still listens to me? He asked. People like me who walked away? Her answer came without pause. Especially them. Daniel gave a small, bitter laugh. Then why do I still feel so far from him? She looked out at the dark desert for a moment, then back at him. Distance is not measured by steps, she said. It is measured by trust. Daniel thought of all the nights he had stared at the ceiling, whispering his wife's name, telling himself he no longer cared. Yet he had never truly stopped speaking to God. Even silence had been a kind of prayer. What if I can't trust again? He asked. What if faith just opens the door to more pain? She folded her hands in her lap. Faith does not promise safety, she said. It promises meaning. Meaning. The word echoed. His wife had once said something close. Pain without meaning destroys. Pain with meaning changes. She understood that. The woman said quietly. She saw more than you realized. Daniel's throat closed. He could almost hear his wife's voice again. Patient, steady, kind even when exhausted. The car slowed almost on its own. The woman gestured ahead. Would you stop here, please? Daniel pulled onto a wide turnout. The engine idled. Desert stretched in every direction. Cool night air pressed against the windows. She turned to him fully. You have been faithful in suffering, she said. Even when you thought you were faithless. Daniel shook his head. I don't feel faithful. Faith is not what you feel, she replied. It is what you carry forward when feeling fails. His heart beat hard. Something important was about to happen. He sensed it without knowing what it was. She reached out and rested her hand lightly on his shoulder. The touch carried warmth that went deeper than skin. You are not forgotten, she said softly, and your love did not end with death. Tears fell freely. Daniel did not wipe them away. Why me? He whispered. Why tonight? Because tonight, she answered, you allowed yourself to hope again. The wind swept across the turnout. Daniel felt peace settle, not the kind that erased pain, but the kind that made it bearable. She reached into her coat and placed something small on the seat between them. Keep this, she said, not as proof of tonight, but as a reminder of who you are. Daniel looked down, his vision blurred. The object was simple, ordinary, yet it carried weight far beyond its size. He opened his mouth to ask her name. Before he could speak, she said one last thing. Faith does not remove the cross, she said. It teaches you how to carry it without losing your heart. The wind rose suddenly outside. Daniel looked up. A quiet fear touched him, not fear of loss, but fear of what this moment truly meant. He knew now this was not just a conversation. It was a calling. May I ask you to do one thing, she said. Anything. Drive a little farther ahead. Daniel nodded. He eased the car back onto the road. The headlights cut through the dark once more. Daniel eased the car forward again. The headlights swept across open desert. No signs, no fences, just earth and sky holding the night together. He drove slowly, deliberately, as though every yard mattered. The woman sat quietly, her presence steady beside him. After a short distance, she spoke. Here is fine. Daniel pulled over once more. The engine idled low. He turned it off. Silence rushed in, deep, immense, the kind only the desert knows. She opened the door and stepped out. The hem of her coat brushed the ground. Daniel watched her through the windshield. She walked a few calm paces away, unhurried. He felt the moment stretch thin. Daniel, she said. It was the first time she had spoken his name. His chest tightened. Yes. Do not spend the rest of your life looking backward, she told him. Love does not live in the past. It moves forward, even through pain. Daniel nodded. Tears threatened again. Will I see you again? He asked. She smiled, not sadly, not brightly, but knowingly. You will never be without what you need. She stepped back. Daniel watched. The wind lifted dust in small swirls. He blinked once. She was gone. Not walking away. Not fading into shadow. Simply gone. No trace. No sound. Nothing. His heart lurched. He opened the door and stepped out fast. Hello. His voice cracked against the quiet. He scanned left, right, the road behind, the empty expanse ahead. Nowhere to hide. No car. No path. Only desert and stars. He stood there a long time. Cool air pressed his skin. His breathing came hard. Had he imagined her? Had exhaustion finally caught him? He returned to the car slowly. Hands shook as he sat again. Closed the door. The small object still rested on the passenger seat. Real. Solid. Undeniable. Daniel picked it up carefully. It lay simple in his palm. Not heavy. Not ornate. Yet it carried a weight that went beyond matter. He stared at it. Then at the empty seat. A strange calm began to settle. Not certainty. Trust. She had not asked him to prove anything. She had asked him to live differently. Daniel whispered his first prayer in years. It came rough, unpracticed. Thank you, he said aloud. For staying. He did not know exactly who he spoke to. It did not matter. The words felt honest. He turned the key. The engine came alive, familiar and steady. He drove back toward Las Vegas. The city lights appeared slowly on the horizon, softer somehow, less demanding. That night he did not go straight home. He drove slowly, letting the road carry him. The next evening he returned to the cab stand. Same car, same uniform, same routes. But he was not the same man. The first passenger was a tired waitress ending a double shift. She climbed in, sighed deeply. Long night. Daniel asked. Long life, she answered. Normally, he would have turned up the radio. That night he listened. She spoke about her mother's illness, about bills piling up, about fear that time was running out. Daniel did not interrupt, did not offer fixes. He simply stayed present. When they reached her building, she hesitated at her purse. Thank you, she said, for listening. Daniel nodded. Any time. He did not charge her. He did not announce it. He simply drove on. The next fare was a man his age, drunk and bitter. He cursed his ex-wife, cursed God, cursed life. Daniel recognized the tone. It had been his own for years. Instead of tuning out, He asked one question. Do you miss her? The anger collapsed. Yes, the man whispered. They drove the rest of the way in silence. Daniel began noticing how many passengers carried invisible weights, how many needed someone to hear them more than directions, how a few quiet minutes could shift the weight of an entire night. He started praying again. Not long prayers, not formal ones, just small, honest words between fares. Help me see. Help me stay. Help me love. He did not tell anyone about the desert. Some things are lived, not explained. At home, he opened the drawer where his wife's rosary had rested untouched since the funeral. He held it. The beads felt familiar, like a memory waking up. I'm trying, he said aloud. I don't know how, but I'm trying. He began attending Mass again. He sat in the back row, near the exit. He did not sing. He did not kneel perfectly. He simply showed up. And somehow that felt like enough. Months passed quietly after that night on the desert road. Daniel kept driving. Fewer hours at first, not because he wanted to, but because his body began to demand it. Fatigue settled in deeper than rest could fix. Brief dizziness came when he turned corners. The road sometimes seemed to tilt under the tires. He told himself it was nothing. Long shifts. Too much coffee. He kept going. Driving had become his way of giving forward. Every passenger felt like a small act of love carried on. One night, after dropping a young couple near the strip, he sat longer than usual in the parked cab. Breathing came slow. The world steadied only after he pressed his forehead to the cool steering wheel. He whispered a prayer. Not now. Please. A familiar calm returned. Not a promise of rescue, only presence. He started the engine and drove home. Weeks later, the doctor spoke carefully. Chronic, progressive, manageable for a time, limiting in the end. Daniel listened with hands folded in his lap. When the doctor finished, he waited. What happens now? Daniel asked. You slowed down. The words struck harder than the diagnosis itself. Slow down. The very thing he had finally learned how to do, stay present, listen, carry love forward, was now being taken from him mile by mile. He walked out into bright Nevada sunlight, blinked against it, sat in his car without starting the engine. Why now? He asked aloud. Why after everything? No voice answered, only quiet. But the quiet held no emptiness. He remembered her words clearly. Faith does not remove the cross. It teaches you how to carry it. That night, he drove anyway, carefully, as though each mile might be among the last. Passengers still noticed. You okay? One asked. Just tired, he answered. He was not ready to speak the truth. He barely understood it himself. At home, he sat at the kitchen table with his wife's rosary in his hands. He did not pray for healing. He prayed for honesty. I don't want to be angry again, he said. I don't want to close my heart. Tears came. Quiet. Real. He realized the night in the desert had not been a promise of comfort. It had been preparation. God had not spared him suffering. He had shown him how to meet it without running. In the following weeks, Daniel let go slowly. Fewer shifts, shorter nights, more rest. He hated it. He accepted it. Faith, he was learning, proves itself not when life grows easier, but when life narrows. One evening, cleaning out the cab for the last time, he rested his hand on the dashboard, the same place his hands had gripped so tightly years before. Thank you, he whispered, for what you gave me, even if it doesn't last. He did not feel abandoned. He felt accompanied. He stopped driving on a Tuesday. No ceremony. He finished his final shift, parked the cab, handed in the keys. The dispatcher nodded. Take care of yourself, Daniel. Daniel walked out carrying a small box. A jacket, a coffee mug, the quiet weight of goodbye. The days that followed moved slower than anything he had known. Morning light through the window. Medicine lined on the counter. Appointments that blurred together. Friends called less, not from cruelty, but because people struggle to speak to someone whose world has shrunk. He did not blame them. At night, he missed the road most. The hum of tires, the small confessions from strangers, the sense that even at 3 in the morning, he had somewhere to be. Purpose does not vanish when routine ends. It simply asks to be rediscovered. His body weakened gradually. Stairs grew difficult. Hands trembled when he tried to button a shirt. Fatigue lived in his bones. Some days faith felt easy. Other days it felt like work. He prayed anyway. Not for miracles, for grace. One afternoon, he sat in the living room holding the small object she had left him. He had never shown it to anyone. It was not a relic, not proof. It was a reminder that someone had seen him at his lowest and still believed his life held meaning. As his strength faded, he made arrangements quietly. Paperwork, letters, a simple will. He gave what little savings remained to a shelter for people living one step from the street, one conversation from despair. He did not want his life to end holding things. He wanted it to end giving. One evening the pain sharpened. Breathing grew heavy. He sat on the edge of the bed, gripping the rosary, every bead worn smooth by years of fingers. "I'm scared," he admitted aloud. Not of dying, of letting go. In the stillness that followed, her voice returned, not as sound, but as certainty. Love does not live in the past. It moves forward, even through pain. He lay back slowly, closed his eyes. Memories arrived, not of illness, of life. His wife laughing in the kitchen. Sunrise after a long shift. The desert road under starlight. And her, standing calm beside the highway. Tears slid quietly down his temples. "I tried," he whispered. "I really did." The sadness held no bitterness, only tenderness. Because he understood now, a life does not need to be long to be complete. It only needs to be faithful. The next morning, a neighbor found him resting peacefully. No struggle, no fear on his face, just stillness. At the funeral, the church held more people than anyone expected. Former passengers came. A waitress who said he once listened when she had no one else. A man who said a single question from Daniel saved his marriage. A driver who said the car always felt peaceful. No one spoke of miracles. They spoke of kindness, of presence, of a man who drove people through the night and left them lighter. The priest closed simply. "Some people preach with words," he said. "Others preach with the way they stay." As candles flickered near the altar, the journey did not feel finished. The road had never truly been about the destination. It had been about how love was carried along the way, and that love had been carried all the way home. If this story reaches you tonight, if you are driving alone, or sitting in silence, or carrying a weight you cannot name, know this: you are not weak for being tired. You are not faithless for having questions. You are not forgotten because life did not follow your prayers. Sometimes the holiest moments do not arrive in churches or loud signs. They arrive on empty roads, in quiet conversations, in the choice to keep going when stopping would be easier. I do not ask you to believe she was who I believe she was. What matters is this: after that night, I loved differently. I listened more deeply. I carried my cross without closing my heart. And that changed everything. Faith does not remove the pain of living. It teaches us how to live fully even while carrying pain. Pay attention to the quiet moments, to the strangers who speak gently, to the unexpected peace that arrives when you least expect it. Because grace often comes disguised as an ordinary passenger on a dark road, asking nothing, explaining nothing, and leaving a life forever changed. And when your own road narrows, when the miles grow heavy and the end draws near, remember, love never disappears. It only moves forward. If you carry it well, it will carry you all the way home. If this story touched your heart, pause for a moment. Reflect on your own road, on the people who crossed your path when you needed them most. Like this video if you believe that faith often speaks in silence. Comment just one word that stayed with you: faith, hope, love, or road. Share this video with someone who may need comfort today. And subscribe to the channel to continue walking with us through stories that heal the soul. Sometimes a single encounter can change an entire life. Thank you for staying until the end. May the Virgin Mary watch over you and guide you on every road you travel. Amen.